Hey guys, how are you? This is Igdalia, and here with me is former Cage Titan Bantamweight champion and UFC veteran Jay Perrin. How are you doing?
I am feeling wonderful today. I'm so excited for the night of fights. We have a bunch of great matchups from top to bottom. I'm happy to be here to analyze them with you.
Yes, thank you so much. We have six amateur fights, and we have one grappling match.
Mhm.
The first matchup that we have is Greg Jones and Johnny Campbell.
I mean, obviously, it's just a grappling match. Not just a grappling match, but definitely a cool event between two veterans. Johnny's obviously Mr. Cage Titans himself. I'm not sure how active he's been as far as fighting, but he's always in the scene, always on the scene with Cage Titans. So I like to see him in these grappling matches. You've been seeing Johnny do a lot of these grappling matches for a couple of years now, so it'll be a nice treat to start off the show.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a great treat. And following up, we're going to have our first amateur fight with Liam Harriman and Shane Wellman.
Yep. Both guys, just starting off, and a bunch of these early fights are just amateurs really trying to bring up their records and trying to get that experience. So you'll see a lot of the first, I would say, 5 or 6 fights are mostly just people getting their experience. It's not a ton to pull from as far as that, and that kind of makes it exciting because you don't know what to expect from these fighters. Most of these, the guys in our card, if I look real quick, we have, 0-0. We have a lot of debuts. Liam Harriman is on his debut, and Shane Wellman himself also 1-0. So not really a ton to pull from there, both from great schools, but they'll definitely put on a show, and it's great to go into these debut shows because you're not really sure what to expect from either. So I'm excited for a good portion of these, actually.
Yeah. And coming from great schools, we have Lucas Brock with Nostos and also Matt Martinez from Sidioton.
Now, I don't know much about Lucas Brock. I've actually tried to do some research here. I do know Matt Martinez. Matt Martinez does have a pretty wide skill set. Even though he's 0-1, he went down in his first one. He's displayed in the training that I've seen with him. He's very quick, he's adaptable, and he's very well-rounded. So don't take that 0-1 record too seriously. Obviously, it's an amateur record, but this is a kid that I think you should watch out for skill-wise. Definitely a good matchup.
Yeah, another great matchup is Jake Kasky and Joe Atala.
Okay, Jake Kasky. We all know Jake. He's been in some pretty good wars so far. Definitely expect a lot of good things out here. He's fighting out of the Daniel Gracie fight team, which I believe is Loco Lobo's new gym. I could be wrong there, so don't hurt me, Loco. And Joe Atala from Dexter Valley Tudo, another guy that I tried to look up and couldn't find much on. But definitely worth it. At 45, I expect Jake Kasky to come out and do what Jake Kasky does. I'm really interested in see how he matches up today.
Yeah, another great fight is Joe Lexi with Andrew Jacobs.
Andrew Jacobs. Okay, so I've had the opportunity to work with Andrew over the last few weeks. He hits hard. He's very long. Very very rangy is the word that I'm looking for. Let's see what am I looking at? Joe Lexus. Pardon me.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Lexus from Ascension Athletics. Ascension, a great team. Definitely comes to fight every single time. It's going to be a challenge for Joe to put this one through. Now again, 1-2 record, 2-2 record. Basically about the same. So it's hard on paper to just kind of call all these fights from looking at the paper.
Mm-hmm.
But this is definitely a good matchup. I definitely think it's a good matchup for Joe to test himself and try and bring that record from 500 to 3-2.
Yeah, and then following up, we're going to have an AMI title fight with Jadorfo Ojoku from Citadel and Colin Robinson. My apologies.
Jadorfo, I'm going to guess that's how you pronounce your name. And if it's not, you have every right to punch me like right in the kneecap after this. 4-2 and 5-1 here. Definitely the best records of all of the amateur fights that we have tonight, especially at middleweight. These two are very big, come from good schools. Team Link Worcester or Team Link in general has just had a ton of good talent that comes out of there. Mr. Jadorfo, I'm sorry, from Citadel, formerly, Redline or all those other things. How many people have come from that school or that coaching staff, from Kin Moy, you've had Pedro Gonzalez. And I think that this is another great addition to that team. I expect a lot from Jadorfo.
Yeah. And then following up, we have another AMI title fight with Sergey Peresunko.
Sergey.
Yep. My apologies.
No, Sergey.
Thank you. And Miguel Severson.
So Sergey is coming in 3-0. He's got 3 knockouts. Now, they all came at different times. It's not like he came in a first round knockout every single time. He didn't come in and blitz somebody at 10 seconds, but he did finish the fight every single time. The thing that he hasn't quite experienced it is a ton of adversity. That's what you find a lot early on in careers with people that have shorter records. Miguel, the champ, right, has been working real hard with the Lozon team and Lakeville MMA. He's had a little bit more adversity in his own career so far, but I think that actually helps to his experience and how you can adapt. Because a lot of the time when you're first starting out your career and you get kind of clipped and you're undefeated and you don't know how to handle that adversity, it can actually turn things around on you. So I really do like this. And it'll be the first time that Sergey actually goes 5 full rounds. So we can see how the gas tank will translate to that. Because Miguel's done it already, at least once, right? So I'm interested to see the power that translates for Sergey as it goes on. I honestly don't believe that this will go all 5. I really do believe that one of these two will find the finish probably in the second or third.
Yeah. And then leading to the pro fights, we have to start off is John Medina and Joe Poirier.
So John Medina, coming up for his pro debut. Not sure about his amateur record against Joe Poirier. Again, not a lot to really find on Medina. But Joe Poirier, we know, is slick. He's smooth on his feet. He switches stances very well. He actually puts his takedowns into his strikes very well. A lot of good clinch grappling. And he's violent. Everything he does is very flashy, but it's very effective. He's accurate. He's fast. And even though he's tall, he can move around like a short guy. So anybody that really faces this guy, as far as his pro career goes, is in for it. Because even during his amateur career, he showed a lot of skills that even at the highest level, you see pros not be able to do. So this is definitely a good fight for Poirier to show his skill set. I'd like him to see him show his striking a little bit more and finish that. But I am interested in this performance. I believe Poirier and a couple of other people are doing the right thing and fighting to their level as they become pros and eventually keeping that competition rising as time goes on. So that'll be a good fight for Poirier and Mr. Medina. I wish you all the best of luck.
We also have Jake Hickenbaugh and Aaron Hughes.
Okay, so Jake Hickenbaugh, right? 2-1 coming in. He's got 1 finish. I believe he's coming off a loss here. Looking to get back to his winning ways. Aaron Hughes, 3-3. A lot of adversity he's faced in his amateur career as well as his pro career. And this is a guy that believes in himself all the way through. And even to the doubters over the years for him, I'm sure and I know because I've seen it. He's had a lot of people tell him he can't do this. He can't become better. It's not a career for him. But Aaron Hughes, over time, has become so much better than people are giving him really the credit for. I've had the pleasure of being able to spar Aaron over the last camp that he had, and he has shown significant improvement in his stand-up. His ground game has come a long way. And just to mention, guys, I started my career at 3-3, just like Aaron Hughes did. And I ended up becoming, a champion in 2 promotions, and I went to the UFC, and I was able to accomplish all of these things. So you shouldn't look at a record like that, especially early in someone's career, and say, this guy's not it, because you have no idea how hard this person works. And I really admire Aaron Hughes' self-belief in himself and his grit to be in the gym and get better, even if it's the hard way. So that's just something I want to commend Aaron Hughes on. Jake Hickenbaugh is tall and lanky, and I expect him to try and keep Aaron on the outside of things. I don't think that he wants to clinch up with him very well. But that's an interesting fight, even though it's, again, 2 early pros with a little bit of adversity in there. But they'll both grow from this fight one way or another. And I'd really like to see, especially with Aaron, how his improvement translates into fight night. Because there's always training well, and then there's performing well. And some people are gym fighters, and some people, maybe not do as well in the gym, but end up doing great on fight night. And they can be 2 different versions of them. So I'd really like to, I hope that the fight night version of Aaron shows up and he just shines.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so important, like what you said, that the record really doesn't reflect the real fighter.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean?
Not at
And
all.
people need to look at the record and be like, oh, okay, were they on a 3 losing streak and then they kept going? Or
Yep.
they always need to look at who they've been fighting.
Yep. Always look at the records. Always look at. You could have a guy that's 15-0, right? But his first 6 opponents were 0-20.
Mhm.
Does that really mean that he fought to the skill level that he did? No. Aaron takes as tough of fights as he can, and I'm harping on Aaron a little bit too much. I don't want to not discredit Jake. Jake has a great skill set. I'm commenting on the fact Aaron has been around for quite a while, and to see him, winning and doing better and improving, it's just something that I take to heart myself because I was there myself. But Jake, don't think I got you out of this fight. This is a very, very even fight.
It
You
is.
are very capable of winning this fight. It just depends on whose game plan is a little bit better today. I would say that both of you are probably very evenly matched. It's just who implicates their game plan a little better.
Yeah. And the great thing about Jake is that we will be touching base later, but his coach is also going to be fighting on the card.
Was he? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
So also we have William Smith and Andrew Valdina.
that. So Will Smith, right? He came in with a chef's hat he had on
Yes.
yesterday. He had a
Sriracha.
chef's hat. Sriracha, which I love that name, by the way. Will Smith is a gamer, man. He's dangerous. And again, it's another guy that's record that you look at and you're like, oh, this is an easy win for Mr. Valdina. And that's not true because Will, in those wins that he
Mhm.
has actually quality performances against New England staples or anybody. This is a guy that'll fight anybody, anywhere, and bring it. The guy's not intimidated by anybody. You could be 5-0, you could be 10-0. It doesn't really matter. This guy comes to bring it, and he'll shock you. He'll pop you and drop you and get all over you to finish. So 4-5 as he's coming in against Andrew Valdina, the up-and-coming prospect from New England. This isn't a guy that you should sleep on at all. He'll definitely shock you. Another thing that, like Iggy said, when we look at the record, we think that that's how good this person is and not the quality of opponent that they've been facing. So if you look at Will Smith's record, he's fought a who's who of people that have been around here. So it's definitely not something to write off. To lose to people that are very successful isn't really a loss. It's just to show your willingness to commit to competition, really. And Andrew Valdina, I love Andrew Valdina's skill set. He's very smooth. He puts things together. He's got nice kicks, excellent chain wrestling. And I think that he's had maybe some lesser opponents going up, but in your beginning of your career, you're supposed to kind of build yourself up, right? You're supposed to be, and this is an old boxing trick, right? And it shouldn't last forever. But as you get a little bit more experienced, you start to fight more experienced opponents. And I do believe that that's what Valdina is working on right now, is that he's got a guy with 9 fights and he's only got 3. And even though it's a losing record, it's still a way to elevate yourself without going from fighting an 0-2 guy to a 10-2 guy. It's a nice progression. I think that Andrew, if he puts all of his weapons together, is a very dangerous person at 145 pounds. And definitely you could see him wearing a belt at Cage Titans or going on to the next realm of competition at really any point. But it comes down to tonight because Will Smith, like I said, is a dog. He will get in his face. And sometimes we've seen Andrew Valdina a little bit, worse for wear when people kind of make it a dog fight. But if he makes it technical, stays on the outside, I think that really not a lot of people have much for Valdina. So this is a great fight, especially for, the level that Valdina is working towards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that Will Smith is the guy to give him a good challenge tonight.
Yeah. And following that, we have Tyler Smythe and Mitch Raposo.
Ooh, this one's my fight of the night. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah?
It's my potential fight of the night because it's 2 muscle hamsters in there. They're just tiny little, as they come in. I wrote that in I actually have that written in my notes right here. It says muscle hamster. The thing about these two is that they're very stylistically, they're very similar. You know what I mean? One is a little bit more power and one is more strength. I kind of compare Tyler Smythe to a younger Chad Mendez, if you think about it. Big overhands, goes for the shots. He has a lot of power in his hands, maybe not as much speed. The one thing that gets concern me about Smythe is his gas tank. Now, he did go 5 rounds with Arthur Mpofu in his amateur title fight, and he went all 5. But in that, we did see him slow down over time. So I would like to see that his gas tank has improved because against a guy like Mitch Raposo, who has been around forever, probably about as long as I have, and that's a long time. I'm old in this business. So Mitch has gone from his amateur career from purely a wrestler, purely a grappler. And over time, as he's grown, he's gotten way better with his hands. This boy is fast, right? As Tyler Smythe has power, Mitch has speed, and he's accurate. He knows what he wants to do. He's in and out. All of these things will matter. So it's a classic speed versus power matchup. And if you've ever met two wrestlers that fight, it's usually that they're just going to stand and hit each other for a little while because that wrestling will cancel out. I do believe Smythe will shoot eventually to try and slow Mitch down a little bit, maybe slow that lateral movement that he uses so well. But I don't see either of these two being the better wrestler than the other. So I do expect this one to go out in the feet. I don't know which way it goes. I've sparred with Mitch recently, and he's very ready, and I know Smythe is always ready and pumped up to get in there. So definitely fight of the night candidate. Definitely one everybody should be watching.
Yeah, I agree. And those are the best fights, the ones that you really have no idea who can win. Following that, we have Trevor Goody.
The Scarecrow, he's back. I thought he
Yeah?
retired. I'm not going to lie to you. He's coming out of retirement to fight
Jack Congdon.
Jack Congdon. So this is a classic grappler versus striker matchup, right?
Mhm.
We all know that the Scarecrow can hit you with any kind of submission from literally anywhere he wants to. Those long limbs definitely don't help with triangles and things of that nature. But you've got Jack. Jack is a karate master, is what he is. I tried to spar him, I think like a month ago, and I'm pretty sure he sweet chin music me in the first 5 seconds. So he's very, very light in his feet, great with his combinations. I think what's going to matter is, and I've seen him in jiu-jitsu class recently preparing for Trevor. It's hard to prepare for somebody of that level on that skill, just trying to like get things out. I guess that is what I'm trying to say. When Trevor's to a certain skill and you're here, you can only do so much to prepare for that grappling other than just not getting taken down. So Jack has to really focus on that. Exactly. Do not let this go to the ground because that's entirely Travis's world. Not to say that Travis can't.
Trevor.
Pardon me, I apologize, Trevor. Trevor can't. Travis. Trevor can't strike. We obviously saw the knee that he had on the famous Gracie family, right? And Bellator had success there. So it's not something that he's just going to be completely outmatched in. But I do expect him to try and get this to the ground against a more polished striker in Jack. So I definitely a grappler versus striker matchup that is interesting. I want to see how Jack handles the range of Trevor. Obviously, he's a giant. So even if you are a good striker, range matters. And if he can't, work on that and close that distance, he's going to have a hard time really landing those strikes on Trevor as he comes forward. So that's a classic grappler striker matchup. Definitely a good fight for Jack coming in 2-0 against a really good veteran with wins at a higher level. So this could prove a lot for Jack. And Trevor just trying to get back into the win column here, right? Trying to get his train rolling again. A lot of potential for him as well. He's already been to the high level. He's trying to get back there. So good fight.
Yeah. And I mean, following that fight, we have another great fight that I feel like it's a mirror fight, which is Pat Casey and Marty Navis.
In what way do you think it's a mirror fight? Like
they both have the same styles of fighting.
I would imagine, yes. I think Pat's got a little bit better grappling than Marty does. Not better. That's a better worse saying. I'd say that Pat uses his ground game a little bit better. If you look at their finishes, Marty's are all KOs. Every one of his finishes are knockouts, either on the feet or he's finishing them on the ground. Marty isn't the first person to go for a submission. That's pretty much what I'm saying. If he doesn't have to do it, he's going to hit you in your face until you stop moving, right? Pat will change his game up a little bit if things aren't working, right? So I do think that Pat has a little bit better advantage in the grappling area. But the thing Pat doesn't want to do is let what I call merengue Marty start to happen. And what that means is that he starts to do this when he's sparring. I don't know if you've ever watched Marty. He does like like a salsa type thing as he goes. If he starts to feel himself, it's very hard to get Marty to back up. So Merengue Marty might be in the building today. I would like to see how Pat Casey does handle that. Pat Casey, just like Trevor Goody, coming from higher levels and having success there. And, you know, he had success at higher levels, so he's been in bigger situations. So that composure will be there as well. This is a big fight for Marty. If he can do that, it's a step up in competition for him, and it might prove that he's ready to go to those next levels. Same with the last fight in Jack or Trevor. If these fights are won, well, their opponents have the experience to show you that, hey, maybe my future is at a higher level. So both of these two matchups we just discussed have people that have fought at higher levels and won against people that are trying to make a name for themselves. So you can expect both of these fights to be pretty high paced. And I'm definitely going to say Pat and Marty. If Marty has anything to say about it, he's going to try and rip his head off. And I know Pat, if he gets his hands around Marty's neck, he's going to pop his head like a zit. So definitely a good fight. For sure going to be intense. Mm-hmm. There's nothing else to describe Marty but intense. So I'm very, very excited for that fight.
Yes, and after that fight, it leads right into the co-main event with Jacob Bone and Zach DiSabatino.
Okay, so Jacob Bone. Okay, now he's got a 12-10 record, but this guy is a veteran of the game. And if you saw his last performance at Cage Titans, he was masterclass and really showed his professionalism in sticking with the game plan and doing that throughout the whole fight, not altering, you know, from what he wanted to do or what his coach's advice was. And that's what got him the victory against, I believe it was, I always forget his name, Ali. He was a great opponent, honestly. That guy was, you know, supposed to be a world killer and systematically Bone tracked him down, chipped away at him, and ended up getting the victory in a masterclass veteran performance, if I might say so myself. So this guy definitely has the experience and the know-how to adapt to situations in the cage, as well as he can follow a game plan and not panic and make mistakes based upon how his training was during his camp. Now, Zach, since his loss to Peter Barrett, however long ago that was, this man has been on an absolute tear. I believe he's won 6 fights in a row at this point. Most of them are coming by finish. This man's on the war path, right? And this just could be another stepping stone. 11-2, definitely the best record of everybody on the card. 12-2 against a guy with 22 plus fights now. It's only a matter of time. So should D-Sab come in here and just wipe Jacob Bone, then who's to say that he doesn't get a call up? Who's to say that he isn't prepared for that next level? Because 7 in a row with 6 KOs, and even if he goes to UD here, you're 12-2 with a 7-fight win streak. If there's any one person that could be getting called up to the next stage, it's Zach, and the only one close behind him would be Mitch Raposo, in my own opinion. So those two are on a real line here about this next win. Should they win tonight, it's very, very possible that we hear a call-up, a Contender Series fight, a Bellator fight, what have you. But both of these men have their futures on the line here. And D-Sab, with how he's looked recently, I'm very confident that he can do this.
And following that, we have the main event, Ross Hilton and Brendan Battles.
All right, Ross Hilton, this is a one guy that has been around the block as well. We've got a lot of these good veterans on this card, definitely well put together. This is a guy that has been kind of everywhere. And, his record indicates 9-7, not, almost 500. That doesn't show anything. He either wins by knockout or he loses by knockout, as heavyweights do. The heavyweight division is crazy in that you could be killing somebody and they could touch you barely on the jaw and go out. And this guy apparently doesn't like to just go home not on a stretcher or put someone on a stretcher, because everything is either a KO or a TKO, loss or win. So he's going to come to push it. He's definitely the striker. He's going to try and beat the hell out of Brendan Battles. Brendan Battles hasn't fought in quite a while now, but that doesn't indicate that he doesn't have the skill level to beat Ross Hilton. This is a huge step up in competition. Battles only 3-1, only 4 fights into his professional career, fighting a guy who's fought all over the world, PFL, Bellator, what have you. But as I said before, the heavyweight division is special in that doesn't have as much talent worldwide as people would think that he does. If you look at the UFC, if you look at, PFL or Bellator, you can name a couple of big name heavyweights, but not, I would say, anybody out of the top 10 of any heavyweight division, you're not going to hear about. So the weight class is thin. And for wins like this for Brendan Battles, it puts him in a position where he could get that call up. You could see heavyweights that have 4-1 records, 5-1 records, because the division is so thin at the upper levels that any one win could separate you. So Brendan Battles definitely more of a grappler here. Goes for the ground and pound, maybe some submission games. So I really do think that Ross is going to try and keep this on the feet and not let the big, strong, explosive Battles get on top of him and hold him there. But Brendan Battles is in a position, again, much like D-Sob or Mitch, where that if he does win against a really, really experienced heavyweight here that's been all over the world, there's no telling that the UFC doesn't call him. There's no telling that the Bellator doesn't call him because, again, heavyweight is such a special weight class that you don't need much to get somewhere, if that makes sense. So definitely a great main event. Who doesn't love two big guys beating the hell out of each other to end the night? A lot of implications on this whole card for more than a few people, from title fights to, potential call-ups to all those things. This card is very, very well constructed, and all of these matchups will make up for interesting fights as the night goes on. And I'm very, very excited. Mike Polvera did a really great job putting this card together.
Yeah, and this is the first heavyweight title fight.
Is it?
Yeah. So they really, really have something to
history.
Yeah.
You're making history. There's only one heavyweight champ, and you're the first one, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
You were the first, the OG. So that's definitely worth going after as well. So even more incentive for these big guys to go after.
Because Brendan, before he couldn't find people to fight him.
Nope.
And now he's had 3 back-to-back, and he's been putting it, and they've both been fighting for their family and giving them a better future.
Yep.
So if you haven't purchased your tickets,
get on that.
Well, they're out of luck.
You're out of luck. if you want, you can stand outside and hope someone gives you their wristband. Or you can just wait. You can look up the live stream, which we have
which is in spectationsports.com.
You heard her. So if you haven't bought your ticket, go to spectationsports.com to stream the whole event. It's going to be a great night of fights. You guys should definitely stay tuned and watch the intermission. I might have something for you.
Ooh. Thank you so much, and we'll see you